Singapore plans to import a third of its energy supply from low-carbon sources by 2035 as it looks to reduce its carbon footprint. The move will allow it to tap into different renewable options like wind and hydropower. And for more, we're joined by Professor Subodh Maiselkar, Executive Director of NTU's Energy Research Institute. Professor Maiselkar, how much will these sustainable initiatives impact our everyday lives?
Really, the first place to start this discussion is acknowledging that climate change is real and that Singapore has a strong commitment to doing its part. So from an energy transition perspective, we've already started our journey a couple of decades ago by switching to natural gas and eventually switching to liquefied natural gas as well. But gas is still a fossil fuel, and we need to look at transitioning away from that. And as you can see in the images, we started our transition to solar 5 or 6 years ago. And by 2030, we should have 2 gigawatts of solar, but that's still only 3%. So how do we increase our proportion of green electricity is really the question. And by 2035, the government has announced now that we will source for low carbon electricity from different sources overseas, importing electricity perhaps for the first time. But even beyond importing green electricity, I think we continue to look at different options like hydrogen, and perhaps even hydrogen could be part of the hydrogen could be part of our cooking gas in the near future as well. But that may take 10 or 20 years for scaling. Beyond hydrogen, we do need to look at other technologies really in the framework of our vision of becoming a net zero nation somewhere by the middle of the century or beyond.
Professor, hydrogen is one of 2 key areas receiving a $55 million boost, but it's too expensive to be widely used at this point. Which sectors should be prioritized to be more cost effective?
Well, that's absolutely an appropriate question. Hydrogen is the ultimate fuel. The main reason is when you burn hydrogen, all you're left is with water. Hydrogen is expensive because the entire value chain of hydrogen is far from developed. We need to look at hydrogen generation, storage, transportation, landed cost, infrastructure change, and finally end use. From an end use perspective, I think 40% of our emissions are linked to power generation or the power sector. So naturally, that would be the place to start. From a cost perspective, I think many nations have announced very ambitious targets. So for example, the US has announced to hit $1 per kilogram before the end of the decade. Australia has similar targets in mind as well. So I think, and taking back to our experience with renewables, look at how renewables costs have dropped over the last decade. I think something very similar can be predicted for hydrogen. It may take 1 or 2 decades, but I think the cost of hydrogen will definitely come down to a point where it would be a no-brainer to use hydrogen to address our global emissions.
Professor, we're also building on carbon capture and storage. How scalable are current technologies, though, and what can Landscare Singapore do to really adapt from systems introduced in other countries?
So carbon capture is an even bigger challenge for us than hydrogen. Hydrogen we can import from overseas. But from a carbon capture perspective, the first challenge starts with, can you concentrate the carbon dioxide? Once you concentrate it, one possibility is to store it underground. Underground storage doesn't seem very likely in Singapore, but there have been studies that it could be done perhaps in the ASEAN region. The second option is perhaps more attractive for Singapore in terms of carbon utilization. I think one of the straightforward ways of utilization is to combine with bottom ash or other incineration byproducts to prepare aggregates or construction materials. There are, of course, the ultimate option of taking hydrogen and combining it with CO2 to generate specialty chemicals or even synthetic fuels. So all of these options for hydrogen and carbon capture are still in the research phase. However, I think as we have seen in other domains, we really are targeting significant breakthroughs in it. And I think both of these technologies are essential technologies for us to really limit the global temperature rise to under 2 degrees.
As Singapore taps on regional power grids then, what safeguards should be put in place to prevent potential disruptions?
I think imports are always tricky for everyone. And I think from a safeguard perspective, we really need to have diversification. We need to diversify our local generation. We've already done so with natural gas plus solar. From a diversification of imports, we need to have arrangements with, the neighbors, but also the discussions with Australia are quite interesting in terms of a potential supply of electricity for us. The last diversification is we really need to look beyond the technologies which are available today. We have discussed hydrogen and carbon, but there are other technologies like geothermal that need to be considered. Also, who knows, the possibility of the ultimate back to the future story of nuclear fusion. Some of these technologies would mature and would play a key role in our long journey of decarbonization.
Professor, thank you very much for breaking down all the possibilities for us there. It's been good to speak to you this evening. Professor Subodh Maiselkar, Executive Director of NTU's Energy Research Institute.